Hi, so today I prepared a lovely pattern for you. You can download it using the link in the description. Print it in 100%. There is a slightly smaller figurine and a bit bigger too. I'm using the one that is smaller. I'm going to cut it out with scissors, and then I take a piece of basswood with a thickness of 2 centimeters, or I suppose it's around 6/8 in imperial units. If you use a bigger pattern, your piece of wood will need to have 1 inch of thickness or 2.5 centimeters. So there are a few ways to approach it. You can either glue it with PVA or some other glue to a piece of wood and then just carve like that. You could also use carbon paper and then simply trace it to the wood surface. The good thing about this method is that you can trace all the little things that are inside the pattern. But I'm simply going to outline it with a pencil all around my giraffe until I have a completed shape. I can also add little lines from the pattern. Now, if you have a bandsaw, you can saw around it, or use any other saw, like a coping saw for example, or you could just even remove the unnecessary wood with your knife. This is how I did all my projects before. Now that you have a shape, there is one more thing left to do before carving. Let's make the space between the legs. It's the same height as the legs in front and then under the tail at the back. You can do it with your saw. It will simplify things. Let's clamp the giraffe and then use a coping saw to remove the wood from that space. Okay, so here we have it. This is not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. We can always sort it out later with a knife. Now, before we start carving, let's establish the middle line that will help us to preserve the symmetry. Just like that. On the head as well. And then around the whole body. So we're going to have 3 objectives. One is to remove all the sharp edges and make our giraffe nice and rounded, and to define the head and also to make the neck narrower. Right now at this moment it's quite wide, so let's just show the approximate width that we need to have. And here where the neck meets the body, I'm doing this curve approximately like that. We can modify it later when we carve, but this is our guideline. So same with the head, approximately same width as the neck over here, and then it will sort of widen a little bit towards the back of the head, and the horns just around here. Okay, so let's start carving. I'm using detail knife because it has quite a nice and convenient length, and I dig right into it. I start with the neck. The grain here is kind of temperamental, so I'm going slow. I don't take too much at once because it's very easy to get carried away, and then you can't really put the wood back. So I go from both sides. If it's kind of difficult or the grain runs different direction, I can always change. So I can go this way, for example, if it's easier. And straight away let's establish some stop cuts. So here, just under the ear. This way it will allow our knife sort of just stop there and not follow any further. So when you carve, you go like this. But be careful because it's very easy to kind of snap that away if you don't control your knife. So control it at all times. For example, you can use push cuts. This is where you push it with your thumb This way the cut is more controlled. You can kind of feel the knife. You feel where it's going. So when you carve the back, you sort of stop under the ear, just like here. And when you carve here at front, you stop under the head, sort of the jawline. This is our jawline, and so you stop there. And then here in the middle as well. We have quite a lot of wood to take off, but don't take too much at once. And also another rule is that if you've taken some on one side, then you should probably move to the other side. So don't take too much at once at one side, because it might be just more difficult to preserve symmetry after that. So I carved some here, and I move here on this side. By the way, here we don't have the pencil lines, so I can do that. I can sort of show where the ear is. This is the head as well, the jawline. Here I have some saw marks on this piece of wood, so I probably should just try to get rid of them. Right. And I start carving. Have some knots here that make my life a little bit more difficult. So I turn my work around. I always check from all sides the symmetry. Just see that I didn't go far on one side or the other. Of course, it's not a problem if I did go far on one side or the other. There's nothing really perfect in nature, but still. Alright, we're getting there, so let's take off some wood from the head as well. Be very careful here because wood here is quite fragile. So use just the tip of the knife and go slowly. So that you don't accidentally snap off some wood. Take a little bit from one side and then from the other. So here let's do the stop cut, just to ensure that the horns stay intact, nothing happens to them. And then push them back a little bit. And from the other side. Let's do the stop cut here for the ear. This way we can work on the top of the head. So the ears, as you see, we left them here on the same width as they are. They're just gonna kind of taper together with the head. Okay, I'm going to continue to work on the neck. Here the grain is a bit difficult, so hopefully yours is much more compliant. But if your grain is difficult just like mine, you can always try and go different directions with your knife. So here I'm going to round the head as well, slightly at the same time as I go. So just remove all these sharp edges, just like that. So same with the neck, you see this sharp edge, so we need to make it rounded as well. So you see when I carve, I kind of carve from all sides to ensure this roundness, here, 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 and then move to the other side. Okay, so we keep making the neck a little bit narrower. So right now, as you see, this is our body. This is the neck, so neck should be really much narrower than the body. And if your pencil lines had sort of rubbed off, you can always try to bring them back, just like that. So we still have quite a considerable amount to take off. And I keep checking from all sides, from the front, just to make sure that it's all more or less symmetrical. The knots here, quite hard. So you see when I'm doing pull cuts, it's when I pull the knife towards me. I put my thumb here under the head and then I just carve. So as we keep carving, we can now also carve the body a little bit as well, since we're getting closer to it. So like this sharp edge should definitely go. And our legs right now, you see they're square, so they have to be round. So take the edge at every side, here too. Turn your work around just to find the more convenient position. Like here you might need to do the push cut. Here might be a little bit tricky, so you need to come from sort of inside. Also, let's show the legs and hips from both sides. Let's make this stop cut and then sort of carve towards it, just to show the thickness of the leg. Okay, there are some saw marks here, and just generally we can clean it up a little bit, the belly and the legs. And here as well, this very sharp and rectangular shape. Let's get rid of it. You see I'm doing this sweeping motion, kind of curl my wrist. So I don't leave any surface uncarved, because when it's so sort of straight, it just doesn't look very good. Okay, so we're almost there. I would say the width of the neck is very similar to what I'd like it to be. Shouldn't make it too thin, because you know it's very easy to break it if it's too thin. So it's thinner than the body already, which is good. We can just add a little bit more here, distinction close to the body. And as you see, I carve all the way around, just to make sure that it's not sharp and geometrical. By geometrical, I mean like triangle or something that has sharp and straight edges. Okay, so our tail, we should probably do that next. So this is the space for the tail, but of course we don't need all this chunk of wood because it's just going to be in the middle. So grab a pencil, establish the middle line again for the symmetry, and let's draw the tail. So something like this. This is the shape. Now let's do the stop cut, just like that. And now you can carve towards it slowly, just little by little, don't take too much at once. And same on this side, also the stop cut. And then let's carve towards it. Okay, and also the tail itself, the sharp edges, very slowly let's soften them, very carefully, because it's always easy to, to take off too much wood, especially when it's something as delicate as this. So just slowly. Okay, so what's the situation with the head? Here I feel like we can still take off a little bit more wood. First horns. And horns themselves, by the way, also let's round them up. Okay, now, so the horns, let's separate them. You can either separate them completely, like here, for example, but we're going to do the simpler version this time. So just find the middle, approximately, and let's do the V-cuts, just like that, along the middle, like this. So this is the way that we can show that there are two horns there, but we don't have to go all the way. If you want, if you're feeling adventurous, you can go with a knife through the middle, or you can use a saw, but I think this would be also quite sufficient. Okay, and now ears. So, but before, let's just check the general symmetry of our head. Look at it from all sides. So I can see that here I can take off some more wood. And then when it's all more or less nice and symmetrical, we'll do the ears. Okay, now let's just find the middle again, just like we did with the horns. Do the V-cut, start taking off some wood from the middle, but here be especially careful. Wood is really fragile here. It's going to be very easy to snap off the ear. Of course, if that happens, don't despair. That's normal. Happened to me many times as well. You can always glue it back as well if you don't want to lose your work. But I just prefer to look at it as like exercise. So there are no failures here. No failures at all. Everything is just practice, practice. So here you see this is the ear line. So I kind of just continue it. Here's another ear line. I can also continue it here. So I'm gonna take off all this wood slowly. Okay, so all we have to do now really is just to clean it up, just to check if there are any uncarved surfaces, any sharp edges, and just go through them. Okay, so really the last thing that we need to do is just finish off our ears. So you can just show the depth, you can kind of carve out the middle. Again, very slowly with just the tip of your knife. Like go like as if under the surface from one side. Not very deep at all. And then turn around. Just like that. Do it a few times until you have a desired depth. And I'm going to remove these pencil marks. So something like this. You can go even deeper if you want. From one side. Then the other. Okay, this is our completed giraffe. You can play with the pattern, you can modify it the way you like. For example, you can change the shape of the head. Here I made it a little bit more like giraffe-like, just like slender and a little bit curvy. You can make it smaller, a little bit like this here. And you can also make it a bit squarish, just like on this one. I kind of like this, how this one turned out. So this is something that we can do. We can also add a mouth to our giraffe. Let's do this. So I'm going to show it with a pencil. Just like that. And now let's take our knife and just make a little stop cut. And then we can kind of carve towards it from underneath. Just like that. It's just a very small detail, but you know, it can still, every detail can still add something to the character. Just like that, one little half smile. And now we can paint it. Again, you can let your imagination run wild. I just did a very simple paint job here with just one color practically, and then black for the eyes and just white for a highlight. I used burnt sienna for the spots, also black and some white. I usually dilute paint with some water. And then I just start drawing these little spots, just like that, in a kind of random way. As one, then another one. So I just kind of leave that white space between them. And then you can add smaller spots just down here. And also on the face. I paint the ears and the top of the head brown as well. And the horns. And you can also add some black just over here on the horns, also diluted with water so that it doesn't have a very thick layer. Also on top of the ears. And then you can slightly mix it up so that there isn't a very sharp distinction. Also, if you want to add some more advanced little details, you can put some sort of stronger undiluted color on one side of the spot to create a kind of shadow, and then mix it up with the rest. Okay, now let's paint some eyes. Just a little bit of black on the side. Okay, I keep saying the last thing, but now for real, the very last thing is probably leaving a catch light. If you want, just add something to the look. So now he actually sees. And do this on the other side. I hope you like this project and you're going to carve a nice giraffe. And don't forget to tag me on Instagram or send me a photo of your completed work. I will be really happy to see it.